So hello everyone, in this video we are going to see the defects of the acts of 1909. In the previous video we have seen the provisions of the act of 1909, in which we have seen the expansion of legislative councils, both central and provincial members were added, and also MP Sinha was given representation, which was the great step after the Lord Curzon announcement of 1904, in which we have seen that the high ranking officers will be reserved for Europeans only. So now let's see the what were the defects of the Act of 1909. So of which number, in spite of its good provision, the Act of 1900 failed to satisfy the people in India because of this reason. And that number one, no provision to establish responsible government. There was no provision to establish a responsible government. Under the Act of 1909, no provision was made to establish responsible government, whereas in 1906 Congress party has declared to get Swaraj as its goal. So after the repeated say of the Congress party, there was no proper representation of the there was no concern of the establishing responsible government. Also, contrary to it, Lord Morley made a statement in the House of the Lords in 1908 that a parliamentary system of government in India is not at all goal to which I would for one moment aspire. So it's the part of the long speech in which he directly saying that Indians are not capable or enough capable of governing themselves. Um, so number second effect was a strong blow to the national unity of India. So the Act of 1909 attempted to divide the people of India in war-tight compartment, as we have seen that Muslims were given more rights more electoral rights as compared to the other communities. So he Britishers again tried to divide Indians. So the people belonging to different religions were given separate representation. Also, the Muslims were granted separate representation. The result was that Sikhs in Punjab, the non-Brahmins in Madras, the Indian Christian, and the Anglo-Indians, etc., all asked for separate representation. So, according to Professor P. E. Robert, the principle of class representation created a distinction between the different classes of the community and made the fusion of their interest possible. Because leaving the Muslim, all other communities wanted to get the proper representation like the Muslims. So the other communities got united. So that's why Professor P. Roberti said that this made the fusion of the interest of possible. Also, third defect was that it shows the seeds of partition, because the introduction of separate electorate for Muslims had unfortunate far-reaching effects on the destiny of India. Due to this, they began to think more as a Muslim rather than as Indians, and later on they declared themselves as a separate nation and started asking for a separate homeland in the Indian subcontinent. And as a result of this, in 1947, India got divided into two parts, which we have seen that were very troublesome division into the Pakistan. A lot of Indians died in this division. People migrating from India to Pakistan and Pakistan to India. A lot of chaos got arised, and many people died. So, number fourth defect was that indirect method of election, means there were no direct method of elections. The Indian Council Act of 1909 provided for indirect elections, which failed to establish direct link between the voters and the representatives. Because elections was like that. First of all, the taxpayer elected local board members, and then local board members or municipal communities elected provincial legislative council. So now the relation between the provincial legislative councils and taxpayer were not, you can say, not built. So this indirect elections failed. In such a situation, the representation did not feel responsible before the people, and also they did not understand the problem of the peoples. because the provincial legislative members were elected by the local boards and municipal community members, so they are just try to clear their problems. Sorry. Number fifth was the restricted right to vote and right to get elected. As you've seen, under the Act of 1909, very high qualification was fixed for the voters and for the representatives, as a result of which a few people had the right to get elected. We have seen that Britishers can deny anyone from contesting election, and also very high qualification was set even for the voting, like you must be paying very high taxes and others. So in big constituencies 650, and in a small constituency only 9 to 10 and 13 people had the right to vote. So from this you can imagine how difficult was the process, or how high qualification was required for voting. So number six, the defect was the majority of the official members in the central legislature. So basically, out of total 69 members of the central legislature, as we have seen, 37 members were directly off to be the officials, and five members were nominated. So and these nominated members were the supporter of the government. So in total, 37 plus 5 is equal to 42, which exceeded than the half, and half of the 69. So you can see that majority of the official members in this, there was majority of official members in the central legislature. Also, over the official members, the control of the government was quite tight. Means you might think that rest of the members are non-office, means though the members are officials, but they will support the truth or something other, something that is which is right. But no, that was not possible, because official members were under the tight control of the government, and they were not independent to decide whatever they want. Also, the main duty was to oppose the non-official members and the supports of the government. So basically, the official members which were elected or nominated, their main duty was to oppose non-official members, and you can clearly see that if election was to be vote was to taken place, the majority was of the official members. So there was no chance that non-official members would win and support gain the permission of the certain laws which is against the British government. Number seventh defect was that poor condition of non-official members. Means though in the provincial legislative councils the member of non-official member were more than the official members, yet their position was not good, because nominated and European members always supported the government, as we have seen. They were forced to do so, and non-official members never participated in the debates, and the power of provincial legislative councils were quite limited, because in the central legislature we have directly seen that a majority was of the official members. But even in legislative councils, though the sorry provincial legislative council, though the non-official members were more, but they uh, but nominate and European members always supported the government, and non-official members never participated in the debates, and also the power of the provincial legislative council was quite limited. So even if certain rights are got due to majority of the non-official members in the provincial legislative council, it certain rights, certain action got approved, but even though it got approved, but the its very power was very limited, so they cannot make greater changes. Also, as a result of all this, the performance of non-legislative members was not very encouraging, and the decision made in these were mostly the decisions of the government. Number six, the defect was limited power of the provincial legislative council. Means though the power of the provincial legislative council were enlarged, yet the enlargement was quite insignificant. Means in the text or in the document it was enlarged only, but in reality no concrete steps was taken towards its enlargement. or proper representation of the non-official members. So the members had no right to vote on the budgets, as we have seen. They could not they could not introduce motions related to public welfare, but the chairman could reject. They could introduce they could introduce motion related to public welfare, but the chairman could reject their motion without assigning any reason, as we have seen. Uh, Higher ranking British officials or official members were not basically obliged to give any reasons in the support of their action. So the provincial legislative council were not more than a piece of decoration. Means eight the decoration or decoration word, or you can say advisory member word, uh, stayed from the 1858 to and sorry 1861 to this time 1909. So the government could refuse anybody from contesting election. We have seen the government had full authority, and the basic main aim of defying a representation of the certain people was to prevent the representation of nationalists in the legislative council. Number 10 is the fail to solve the Indian political problem. So number 10th effect is that act of our Morley-Minto reform failed to solve the Indian political problem. So the Morley-Minto reforms afforded no answer and could afford no answer to the Indian political problem. The people of our country wanted to get responsible government, but mm, it it was not given. Also, they wanted an active hand in framing of the government under which they were to lie. But as we have seen, for active representation, their representation in Central Legislative Council was important. Their voice in Central Legislative Council was important, but the members in the Central Legislative Council, official members in Central Legislative Council was greater than the non-official members, so the voice always remained of the official members, and these official members were in the control of the British government. So ultimately, we can say that in Central Legislative Council, the voice was of the central government. So also, they also wanted an active share in legislation, but that was also not given. Also, the act did not transfer any power in their hands. So, from Indian point of view, the representation were not inspiring for both moderate and extremist. So, here two word is used. It is for the INC, Indian National Congress. So, as we have seen that in the Lahore session of sorry Lahore nahi. In Surat session 1907, we have seen that INC was divided into moderate and extremist. So right now both got dissatisfied, both were unhappy from the 1909 improvement. So some of the other defects of the causes of the failure of the Parliamentary reforms are: number one, the on provincial legislative councils, the control of the central government was very tight. And therefore they did not prove useful. Also, the Britishers were holding all high officials, and no reforms were introduced in the local bodies like municipal communities and district boards. Not they were free from the government control. Also, towards India, the attitude of the government and bureaucracy was very harsh, and they were not allowed to enter certain places in their own country. In India, the political consciousness was spreading very fast, as a result of which the political aspirations of Indians has gone very high, and they were not satisfied with the Morley Minto reform. And as we have seen that due to higher educations, they got educated uh, about the policy of governments and that of democracy. So they are now with the sudden little improvements of the Britishers, they were not happy. So let's see in the conclusion that there is no doubt that Morley Minto reforms failed to solve the problem of India. Whatever was given to the people was much below their expectation, and secondly, there were some basic weakness in the reforms. But in spite of all this, the parliamentary reforms was the step in the direction of the responsible government in India, and it cleared the way for taking the second steps. So the Indian politicians got an opportunity to show their ability. Joining the council means even though their representation was less, but before 1861, after 1851, 1858 Act and 1892 Act, we have seen that no such proper representation of the Indians was given. But in the Act of 1909, this time Indian politicians, though with the 69 minus 40, which is 742, though with the 27 members, they were given to prove chance to prove themselves. So means Indian politicians were given chance to prove themselves. So for now, let's stop here. In the next video, we will see Montes Declaration of 1917. So thank you.